YouTube.
Oh.
Because that's what Brent was talking about. How he hates the vertical live. But, there. It'll still work. It'll still work. I just have to back it up a little. Back it up a little bit.
So do you want me to turn my phone on so you can see what it looks like?
Oh yeah, one of you can have it on so we can look at questions on your phone. That would be perfect. We are now live, but there's nobody there, so it'll take just a little bit for notifications to go out. Okay, how were you falling over? I don't want to fall over either. Okay, no, it's dirty.
So turn it if you want to look at it your way.
Okay. We got one person. Hello, one person.
Want me to turn the volume down so we don't get the...
Oh yeah, yeah.
That delay will be irritating as all hell.
It will. But it sounds like it'll be good volume. I mean, I have my microphone that I can put on there. Should I use the microphones?
I don't know. Can you hear us all
Only,
right?
I don't know. Who's here? Somebody here? Do you hear us okay? Whoever's there? Can you comment and let us know if you hear us okay? Or not? I'm wondering if I can, let's see. I'm gonna see something. If I flip it this way, will it still work? No. Nope. Because the microphone has to get hooked up over here. So, hang on, peoples. I'm figuring it out. I'll get it. I shall get it right one of these days. This way. Ooh. Okay. I'll have to scooch a little bit, but that's okay. Hello. Who do we got? Hi. Okay.
Well, you got somebody here from Ireland, and your phone just tipped.
Did it?
Yeah, it's sort of sideways.
It's tipped, but it should still look straight on there, doesn't it?
No, your roof, the ceiling goes
Really?
like this, yeah.
Because there's no way for me to attach it to the bottom without it. Oh, wait. No, see, it won't.
Yeah, but I think the sound sounded okay before.
Yeah. Okay, how's that sound?
Test.
It's gonna be all like gurgly.
You already have some requests in the chat.
I do? Okay. What do we got here? Can you say hi, Anna and Keonta? Keonta? Hello, how are you? Face cam, can you say hi, Anna? I did. It's good? Okay, good. Thank you. We're going to get started with my questions. We have 4 people in. It's going to take a little while to get all the notifications out. Thank you, T-Boy, letting me know. And welcome to Sasquatch Secrets, everybody. I just need, oh, it dropped. They just wanted me to say hi. Oops, shit. We got 2. We just want a couple of people who are regulars, you know, to jump in here. Four. We have 4? I showed 3. Well, they can go back and watch because I don't know how long people are going to take to come on. But again, welcome to Sasquatch Secrets. I'm Nikki Colon. I'm the host of Everything Bigfoot that we like to talk about live every Sunday at 5 p.m. Mountain. And today I'm fortunate enough to be sitting with Thomas Steenburg, researcher out of BC, British Columbia, Canada, and Bill Reid, part of the Buckwaz crew. Welcome. Thank you for coming and having a sit down with me. And I thought I'd invite him up. Tonight's my last night here in Canada. And it's been a wonderful trip. I've been here since the 1st. And it's been a roller coaster ride for sure. Getting to go through Thomas's wealth of reports and photos and correspondence and just all his research and investigations that are amazing. They're amazing. They're detailed. They are what a real researcher should do when compiling data. So thank you very much for allowing me to go through all that, Thomas.
Oh, you're very welcome. But you notice a lot of it was back in the days before the internet, so it's all done on an old typewriter and a lot of whiteout.
Right. Well, it was neat going through all that stuff because I'm kind of a paper person too. You know, I learn more when I write stuff down, and so I got it, and it was super interesting, and I could have sat there forever. He was like, we gotta go, and I'm like, okay. Hey, I want this copy here. But I had a few questions that I thought I'd ask the boys, give their feedback on about the Bigfoot community and things that happen. And let's see, we don't. Dinner time everywhere. Where is everybody? They'll be here. So one of the first things I wrote down was, how do you think the Bigfoot research community evolved over the past decade?
I don't personally think the Bigfoot community has evolved at all. We're still stuck in first gear.
Still in first gear.
Yeah.
We still have that whole football field left.
Yeah. Basically, we're all still trying to answer question 1, and people have gone on to themselves. You know, going on wild speculation and theories about what this means, what that means, what they do, what they are. I mean, none of that makes any sense until question one is answered. Do they actually exist? I mean, it's okay to think about and talk about it, but I mean, Rennie once said we're just spinning our wheels. Mm-hmm. Everyone is just repeating the same mistakes. They just have prettier equipment now when they do it.
True.
And he made a lot of sense when he said that, yeah.
Prettier, more expensive equipment.
More expensive and prettier, yeah.
And what do you think, Bill? What?
I think in a way it's devolved, and what I mean by that is if you go back, to the 60s, 70s, 80s, people are asking questions. What is Sasquatch? What does it do? What? Mm-hmm. And now when you get into a lot of the forums, a lot of the discussions, people are telling you what Bigfoot is. Bigfoot does this. Bigfoot does that.
Yeah.
They don't have a shred of evidence to support what they're stating, but there's all these people that are now talking statements of fact around Sasquatch with zero proof, and you either get the answer that, oh, I'm doing this for myself, I don't share, or they'll give you some cockamamie story about all you need to do is open up your mind, and they will come to you.
Right.
And I think that's really the popularity of Sasquatch due to shows like Finding Bigfoot and other things, which is sort of hypocritical because guys like Thomas and I, it was in search of back in the 70s that made us want to get into Sasquatch. Mm-hmm. Now the popular shows have made it so popular that you're getting a lot of people into it that are looking more for cult or celebrity status than actual research.
Right, right. All about the clicks and views, I have no problem with people trying to make money at Bigfoot, or if they can pull a dime out of it, so be it, as long as it's not hurting or misrepresenting what they've got. Maybe Bigfoot conferences, have them. I'm all for them. I love all the little goodies and buying stuff, but I also know that I'm going there to do that, to make purchases like that, or to listen to the speakers and all around people, getting to know people.
And there's nothing wrong with I'd be a hypocrite to say that, you shouldn't make money. Like we've said, my little group has said to Thomas numerous times over the years, Thomas has spent tens of thousands of dollars of his own money over the 40 plus years of his research when it comes to gas, driving from province to province, out on the roads, everything else.
Yeah.
But he's never recouped. Even in the books he wrote, there wasn't a lot of profit from those. So for guys that are doing legitimate research, that are not trying to con people, that are
right
legitimately, and they're looking for clicks, and they're looking whether it's YouTube revenue, selling books, Amazon, that sort of thing, all the power to them. When you're looking at $6 or $7 grand for a night vision, it takes money. It's the people that are the con artists and the charlatans that I do have a problem with.
Right. And that's what's important, that we some of us continue to talk about these things, and is one of the things that I kind of took my podcast in that direction. There's 1,000 encounter channels out there, and I could not see myself doing that, type of show over and over, just spitting out the same exact thing that everybody else had. I wanted to have conversations that had meaning, whether it was speculation or not, but that it was at least trying to move that ball down the field a little bit as to where the discussions should go. Maybe they don't get there right now because we're missing a bunch of pieces along the way, but with a little bit of fun and maybe a little bit of history, maybe a little bit of science, I tried to make my shows a little bit different every time. Sometimes I'll bring Thomas on or you on to do those historical events that have happened regarding Bigfoot. And sometimes I bring on, you know, people who really know the whole lineage of Homo sapiens. And we go at, you know, that way. And some of that stuff is really hard to do, but I think it's interesting. And I think I have enough people who support me. Thank you very much. Who, you know, come and watch whatever I put out there.
Well, that is all the stuff you should want to cover. For example, is if you're somebody that believes that Sasquatch is a physical being,
Yeah.
then you have to come up, well, where did they come from? So which leads you to basically two schools of thought. Is it a primate? And yes, humans are primates, but is it a hominid or is it a higher primate? You know, if you get into people that start talking about Gigantopithecus blackae, you know, there's definite reasons why that's not a good choice. But then there's some that may say why it is a good choice. But those are all the things that you want to look at because, A, we don't know anything about it, despite what a lot of people will say.
Yeah.
But if you're going to form an opinion on what Sasquatch is, it's good to look at all those different facets.
So we're finally getting some people in. Good to see you guys. We kind of had to get the ball rolling and start chit-chatting. We've got Pine Island. Jeff is in the house. He says, hey, Thomas and Nikki. Oh, dang it. I can't scroll up on yours. This is my phone. Eric Wood, good to see you, Eric. And Grasshopper, I have his phone, so now I just won't touch anything. She can't read the chat, the phone. Hey, Eric, Jeff, good to see you guys. Doing good here in Canada. We're up to about 16 people and growing now that everybody's getting notifications, hopefully. So we're having a little mini roundtable here. Now, I'm just asking them some questions that I put together last night. And we'll see where it goes from there. But let's move right along. So I had another question. Do you feel there are any promising current trends in Bigfoot research that are gaining traction?
I really like the idea of eDNA. You know, the problem with the eDNA that people bring out all the time is it doesn't tell you what it is if it's unknown.
Right.
But that's not completely true. If there's enough DNA there, you can map the genome from that. So that could give you, if you have something that is a primate and you can map the genome to it, you can get fairly close to what it would probably look like. And even if you don't get that far, say you're only getting part strings of the DNA, if you get, you know, let's just say down in Bluff Creek, somebody gets a piece of eDNA down there, and then somebody, say up here, gets a piece of eDNA, DNA from environmental sampling, I should say. And you get it from a couple of areas, and they're all consistent, but unknown. Then you can start seeing, well, look, we have a consistent, unknown animal in these areas that we're consistently getting DNA from when we're doing environmental sampling. That means there's something out there. Conversely, if we're doing all this, you know, environmental DNA sampling all over the place, and we get nothing that's not a recognizable species, then it's pointing more to, is there anything out there? Because if you believe it's a physical creature, it's going to leave DNA.
Right. And Thomas, do you find anything trending that...
I think the next 5 years, between now and 2030, are going to be vital. Absolutely vital. And I'll tell you why.
Please do.
I had an idea, I guess, 18 to 20 years ago. I called it the Coquihalla Project. And the idea was the Coquihalla Highway was a highway built between Kamloops in the north and Hope in the south, built during Expo year. And they built wildlife fences all along the length of the Coquihalla Highway, and they built underpass tunnels for the wildlife to get through so they wouldn't get killed on the highway. I had an idea, and this is 18 years ago, that we could cover those wildlife tunnels with, trip cameras that would work in the dark and solar powered. And enough time went by, I don't know how long that would be, 3, 2, 4, even 10 years, and it would have to be done in secret. All that time went by, and we got photographic evidence or video evidence of every large game we know is there, and we don't get a Sasquatch. I really got to wonder if the Sasquatch is just myth and mythology and folklore. Now, before that, I had that idea. There was a Highway 1, the Trans-Canada Highway going through Banff National Park. In the late 1980s, he had what was called the Red Flag Program. They had these little red marker flags, well, yay big, all along the highway, everywhere where an animal was killed by a car. Everything from a chipmunk to a grizzly bear, because they just wanted people to slow down. But after a year of that didn't work. So they decided, like the Coquihalla Highway, to build wildlife fences along both sides of the Trans-Canada Highway through the park. And again, they built tunnels under the highway for wildlife to get across the highway without being killed. And they studied this enough that they knew grizzly bears that were alive when the tunnels and later the overpasses were built. They later built overpasses covered in trees. When they were built, the bears that were alive wouldn't use them. But bears born and weaned since their construction have no problem with them. Okay? Now, unlike the Coquihalla Highway, Banff National Park put cameras up. The only out is the cameras weren't 24/7, 365 days a year. They put them out for a week here. Then they take them down, move them to another place, leave it there, and so on. And in that time, since the mid-1990s, they've got photographic and video evidence of everything we know in the park, including some very strange-looking people. But they don't have any footage of, guess what? Sasquatch.
Yeah.
You really have to wonder why. And even before those days, when I was in Alberta, I investigated a number of reports along the Trans-Canada Highway in the park. Now, why I say the next 5 years are going to be vital, and I'm only expressing my opinion here. The I-5 highway that goes all the way from the Canadian border down through Washington, Oregon, and California, for the first time, one always had to wonder, how does anything cross the I-5 to get to the coast or vice versa without getting killed on the Coquihalla or the I-5 highway? Well, they are building, for the first time between Olympia and Vancouver, Washington, wildlife tunnels under the I-5. And tunnel is really a bad word. They're underpasses. They're about a football field wide, each of them. And unlike in Canada, these will be covered with cameras 24/7, 365 days a year. And they've already, apparently, even though they haven't really officially started yet, they've already got footage of a grizzly bear they didn't know was that far south. And not only will these cameras be 24/7, 365 days a year, we all, apparently, if this is true, will be able to watch through them right on our computer screens. So in the next 5 years, between now and 2030, in my opinion, if we don't get evidence, video evidence of a Sasquatch going through one of these underpasses, and they get evidence of everything else we know is there, you really got to ask yourself why. Maybe there's nothing to get. And of course, and another problem is these new underpasses aren't a secret, like my idea for the Coquihalla Highway. So it's only a matter of time before someone does something silly with a ghillie suit or AI.
Right.
That's always the problem. But that, to me, the next 5 years are going to be vital, in my opinion. Maybe a little longer than that, but yeah, if there is nothing picked up in those cameras, I have to really start to wonder why.
We took that Coquihalla on the way in to Harrison, and I was quite impressed. They're a lot bigger than I thought they were. wide, width-wise in
Yeah.
there. And, I had thought they were maybe half that size.
Yeah, and my idea was to cover them all with solar powered cameras that switch to night mode when it gets dark, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't have $1 million to throw away, so it was never an option for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And there are, I believe, 12 wildlife tunnels between Kamloops and Hope. And you wouldn't have just those tunnels. Anything with a creek or a river, anything big enough for a man to get through.
Mm-hmm.
Cover it with one of these cameras.
I even saw
Probably one on each side.
not just overpasses, but underpasses that they're building as well.
Yeah.
Just as wide underneath.
Yeah. Yeah, you saw the ones in Banff Park. That's the one that has the overpasses. The Coquihalla, as far as I know, has no overpasses. They're all tunnels.
No, they did. They're building them now. Matter of fact, I have the pictures.
Oh, okay.
They're under construction right now, and we're working on them. It looked like one was completed already, and then there was another one that was getting construction. So,
all right. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Lockbeard, thanks for joining. Who else came on? Adrian, Grasshopper. Good to see you guys. So, how can I keep discussions about Bigfoot fresh and engaging without relying on encounter stories? Because that's something I think Jerry Matthews from the Buckwas crew has mentioned before, that it's hard to keep podcasts going, without doing the same thing over and over. Would you have any suggestions for me or my podcast, the way I do it?
Your podcast and all the others will keep going as long as a segment of the population has an interest in this subject. Yeah. You can go. You could just sit there and say Sasquatch, is it or isn't it? And people will watch for an hour. It's always like, I think a lot of podcasts now just make stuff up as they go because they're trying to keep it going.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was on Doug Hychek's program a couple of weeks ago, and he said, I think there's about 100 sightings a day now. I said, there's 100 reports a day. There's probably 15 to 20 sightings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because a lot of people are making a lot of stuff up, and that's a fact. I mean, whenever you're dealing with a witness, there's only 3 possibilities. 1, they saw a Sasquatch. 2, they mistook someone or something for a Sasquatch. Or 3, they're lying. And with social media and everything and the effect it's had on us, that's a lot more common than a lot of people want to admit.
Yeah.
So, my take on that is there is a big void in the Sasquatch community on education.
Yeah.
So things like you could do is, for example, contact someone like Curious Cryptid, and he talked about in photography using things like forensic markers, like they do in crime investigations,
Right.
for not only sizes, because how many times you've seen a photo of something, a footprint, and there's nothing to show the size. Whereas if you have something like that in the picture, it can show the angle, it can show the size. You could do another one, maybe get somebody that knows how to cast footprints, do an episode showing how to maybe cast with traditional methods like plaster of Paris and newer methods like dental cement.
Uh-huh.
You may do one on, again, different experts, somebody that knows about photography and how to look at raw data on pictures and films, or how to use Google to do back searches for photos where somebody said, hey, this is a new photo.
Mm-hmm.
And you can use Google to see where the first came onto the internet.
Right.
So I think education is a big thing that you can do. And the other thing you could do is, with the regional experts, which I know you've started, but maybe if you're talking about, the native perspective, everyone seems to talk about, the natives, they'll say, American Indians say this. That's BS.
Yeah.
There is multiple cultures across this continent that predated Europeans.
Mm-hmm.
It's like saying a European. Well, Europeans are different. Well, so are North American to Aboriginal. So you could go to, say, if you knew somebody from the Ojibwe, maybe interview them on their traditional take. Or if they say, hey, the Europeans have co-opted one of our spirits and turned it into a Sasquatch, which it's not, get that information and maybe talk to, West Coast Stolo or something, give some, again, that education is something different.
And if you can get them, hell, you may even get, people who are educated in fields that could be attached to the Sasquatch mystery without really necessarily having anything to do with it. Things like forestry, planters, wildlife biologists, talk about food and the fauna out there.
Yeah.
It seems, and get a perspective from that. If they would agree to come on to a show that, is mainly about Sasquatch, that may be a task and a half, but yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it would make for an interesting listen.
Well, it works both ways. You can bring one of those experts on, and if they say maybe they've been involved in salmon studies in Washington State. Well, if they've been doing salmon studies, which is the basic biodiversity in that area, they don't wear blinders. They maybe study the salmon, but they see everything else. If they've been doing it for 5 years and they tell you, in 5 years I've been doing this research, and there is absolutely nothing I've ever seen or would indicate a Sasquatch.
Yeah.
That's
exactly what I said. Like you heard me say before, I said what would really impress me if one of these groups that do a wildlife study of some kind that has nothing to do with the Sasquatch ever came across something. And not a group that had Sasquatch on the brain from the first moment on. Yeah.
I need to add some moderators for a second here. Get rid of some people. I was trying to add moderators, but it's your phone, not mine. Okay, you guys take care of those people for me, please. Just ask them. Okay, let's see. Thanks, B. Next, thank you for that. I will definitely take that in consideration and hope that I can do more of that. It's a lot of work, a lot of people to contact, an organization and all that stuff, but I think it'll be well worth it, and it'll keep people engaged and have that new stuff, is what I really want to reach for.
And networking brings success. The more you do it, the more you network, the more opportunity that people will come onto the show.
Right. So what are some lesser known aspects of Bigfoot research that listeners might find intriguing?
Lesser known aspects?
Right.
What do you mean by lesser known?
Well, like our little group, we go out, and for me, I don't think people realize how some of us become tight-knit. We become people who know how to go out and communicate things. And I know some people might not know all it takes to be able to get along and work together, especially if you're going out in groups or, stuff like that. But,
well, by lesser known aspects, if you want to get involved with a group, I suggest you basically associate with people who, and maybe one or two objections, because you always like to get the other side and keep track on it. If you're a zoological minded to the Sasquatch mystery, stick with people who are also zoological minded. If you're a paranormalist, stick with them. Yeah.
You need to stick to like-minded, people.
If you don't trust them enough to lend them $100, don't go out with them.
Yeah. It's like we have this man here in the Book Quest crew. He's our resident skeptic, but he's not closed-minded.
Yeah.
And I think some of the lesser known things you talk about, again, and I've said it before, It was a Bluff Creek project. There's a perfect example. They've been, 20, 25 years out there with at least a dozen cameras out at all times in the field doing, many of the members are advanced. They've got PhDs, master degrees. There's biologists in there doing fantastic work, and they're letting the evidence take it where it goes. I think they found that, species of marten, which they thought was extinct in that area for 70 years. I mean, they do a fantastic job, and I think the groups out there that are doing real scientific research that is letting the evidence dictate the path they follow, they don't get enough airtime out there. And the other thing that a lot of people do, and it's really on, I think it's part of the the echo chamber that people have, is you can have boots on the ground people that are excellent boots on the ground for observing, but you can also have absolutely excellent people that don't go out in the woods, that are more archivists, and they're great at going through records, finding records of old encounters, old stories, maybe doing analysis of photographs and film and that. And quite often when you hear somebody that's a believer and you get an archivist talking, they'll go, oh, you don't have, talk to me when you have boots on the ground. And yet when they have somebody that does nothing but read encounters that people sent them, because they're believers, they'll go, oh yeah, that's all great stories. So there's a place for the archivists, there's a place for the researchers that are good at the theoretical stuff, and there's a place for the people that go out on their boots on the ground. And I don't think enough groups have that mesh of people that are both. You have some that are great at going out there. It's like when Thomas first started, he was, the dumb Army Princess Patricia Band guy out there on the field, and he had Dr. Markov, who was I believe he was a paleontologist, was he not?
And archaeologist, yes.
Who was, a university professor that did a lot of the theory work and analyzed a lot of the evidence that Thomas brought in. And that's a great combination. We don't have enough groups like that.
Right. I agree. I think we have in our little network of podcasters and boots on the ground, I think, we've got a pretty good, I know who I can go to ask questions, if it's regards to boots on the ground stuff, that we've got Sasquatch Wizard and we've got Bran and we've got several others who are constantly out there as much as they can. We have to face it. A lot of us it's weekend warriors. Everybody has to work.
And we've got guys like Leon. But this is a new, relatively new development in most areas.
Yeah. And
most of us that are involved in this group are relatively unknown in the bigger Sasquatch world. Yeah, I mean, Thomas is, our shining star. But most of us are, we were in the shadows and never, be brought forward. And so our example isn't out there, and a lot of people don't believe in our example.
Yeah.
That's true.
The Sasquatch Field's worst enemy is the Sasquatch Field itself. Yeah.
So with that, then what do you feel is the future direction of Bigfoot research?
It will keep on going on the same as it always has, because the mystery will never be solved unless science gets what science has always demanded. And then whenever asked that, they're unanimous. They need a body or a piece of the body or skeletal remains. That's the only thing that will eventually prove the existence of the Sasquatch and take it out of the realm of cryptozoology and into the realm of everyday zoology. And that will be a slow, drawn-out process in its own. I mean, yeah.
But I think what also will change as well is popularity. A lot of us, when Finding Bigfoot first came out, and the real popularity of Sasquatch came out, we thought, oh, this is going to be a 5, maybe 10-year fascination that'll go away, and most people leave. And when the dog man stories first started coming out, a lot of us thought, hey, this is going to take people that are into Sasquatch for the shock value or the creepypasta value would move on to Dogmen. And I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate, but the I think it's lasted at least 10 years longer than I would have thought the fascination would be.
Yeah.
Maybe at some point, a lot of the people that are really in it for the sensualization or the creepypasta aspect may go on to something else, which then may make the popularity of a lot of these, encounter shows that are just reading, and some of them are probably using AI to write stories. They will go away and help clear the muddy water.
Yeah. Because AI is not going away. It's getting better and better. And it's going to get harder for us to see some of this.
And which is why with the cameras and the underparts, I said the next 5 years will be vital, because AI is just in its infancy. It's going to get to the point where
things are getting better and better.
And that's why we need the combination of boots on the ground and theoretical researchers, because 10 years ago it was all, that's been photoshopped. When Photoshop first came out, you saw people that would take a slice of pizza and Photoshop it on YouTube to make it a woman in a bikini, right? And just to show what you could do with Photoshop.
Yeah.
And the average guys like Thomas and I, we couldn't tell if something was Photoshop, so we had to rely on experts in that field to tell us how to look at the data. Well, the same is going to be with AI and every other new thing is we will need those experts to help us see what's real and what's not.
Yeah, for sure. I'm hoping, they're saying that they're going to start putting more markers on AI generated photos and videos, so that when we do find stuff like this, we can drop those right into like Google imagery, and it's going to bring up those tags.
But those tags easy to take off?
Well,
what you're doing?
There will be people.
Somebody will know how.
Somebody will know how.
Somebody will know how.
People with the advanced Photoshop skills have fooled all but the most high professionals on things. So that's always going to be there. The other thing that, again, is both a benefit and a detriment to the field is technology decreasing in prices. With night vision, eventually prices come down. Thermal vision, prices come down as it becomes more available to the researcher. That'll be great for getting that technology to the field. The downside of it is hoaxers and others will have better technology to do their hoaxes. So it's a yin and yang. It's a
double-edged sword.
Right. But how do you feel about technology then influencing the future of Sasquatch investigations?
I don't know if I like it, but I don't see any way to avoid it.
Because now we've got drones.
Yep.
The big thing.
Absolutely.
They're great tools, but they can be also have their downside too.
I think it has a net benefit, because like I said, if we can get high quality night vision, like right now in Canada, I mean, you're looking at $8,000 to $10,000 for good high end night vision and more. If you can get some in the digital night vision, like Thomas and I have some digital night vision, nowhere near the quality. But as technology gets better, are we going to get really good night vision in the $1,000 to $2,000 price range? Are we going to get things like the Seek thermals that you put on phones? Are they going to get better quality, come down in price? It's more affordable. Those are the things, and different types of drones. Those are the things that will really help us. And again, you can use technology for things like AI, but I think for the average researcher, getting some moderate, because a high quality photo is better than a 60 millimeter grainy photo that 40 years later, 50 years later, people are enhancing into 4K. It doesn't work.
Right.
But if you have that high quality stuff right to begin with, it makes it so much better.
Mm.
Agreed. Thanks for joining us, Rabbit. Good to see you. Good night, B. Bumblebee in the house. Good to see you. Hive Psy. Starman, good to see you. Trackway. Oh, shoot. I always want to do that. Okay, so are there any new methodologies or techniques emerging in Bigfoot research that excite you specifically?
Like I said, I'm excited where, well, my two things is eDNA. I think environmental DNA, it's in its infancy now. It's yet, it is becoming more and more useful in scientific research for biodiversity of areas. I think I'm really excited with eDNA. And then the other thing, like I said, is technological improvements in night vision and thermal cameras that the average layman can afford.
Right, because there was a comment in here from Rabbit that said that he heard that LiDAR and drones can see and detect better in thick foliage and the canopy, but you got to be able to afford that stuff, to do it. It's not cheap, especially for the LiDAR, and you've seen, on.
And you got to pray the government doesn't throw too many barriers in the path as it gets better.
And that's true too.
Yeah.
You're restricted in many forests where you cannot.
You have to become a legal helicopter pilot to drive.
Well, you see, some of it, this is where people often forget that wildlife management and poachers play a role. So, for example, like during hunting season here in British Columbia, they put in new rules that you can't have cellular trail cameras during hunting season out in the field while you're out there. And you're not allowed to have drones if you're hunting. So, that's for fair chase of wildlife. So some of these laws will impact the Sasquatch researchers if, the equipment gets misused by poachers or others. It's very easy, the ban mentality in government is, long-standing. Rather than police something, ban it. And that's where we got to, part of the worry we have with any technological advancement, are the poachers or whoever criminal use going to make it that we can't use it?
Yeah.
The bad side effects, technology.
So, changing it up a little bit and talking about who do you feel are some up and coming researchers in the Bigfoot community that listeners took up to? Who do you like? Who do you listen to or watch or follow?
I'm a bad one. I don't watch or follow virtually anybody. Our little group.
Yeah.
With I support you and I support Brent. Tall ones. Our little group. Most of what I listen to, and maybe you could say it's hypocritical, but I like some of the encounter ones I listen to. Simple for the creepy pasta aspect. Especially, I listen to Dogman when I don't believe 99.9 of the stuff that's coming out of those shows, but I do it for personal enjoyment. Like before I do a night ops, the week before, I listen to a bunch of scary, whether
stay away from that stuff. Yeah,
the killer Sasquatch or the killer Dogman.
Oh my goodness!
Because I enjoy it, but I don't. Other than the little group of that everyone here knows about, whether it's Curious Cryptid. I hate saying Okanagan Bigfoot because it should be Sasquatch. But, tall ones. Our little group that around. These are the ones that I follow.
I listen to a lot, but I don't really look up to. All the ones I looked up to have passed on. I knew a lot, and they've all passed on. Yeah.
Well, who has been your favorite researcher of all time?
Well, I wouldn't say a favorite. I'd say it'd be an even split between John Green and the late Reid Hendon. And Vladimir Markotic sort of took me under his wing when I started too. And the professor from the University of Calgary, Noel Grover Krantz, was a big influence on me. I got to know him quite well. Bob Titmus would just say, you know, but no, I'd say as I got more and more into it, even they had things that I questioned, you know, in their methods or their conclusions and things like that. And we get into debates and arguments all the time. But that's how you learn. That's how information gets passed on. That's how you separate the wind from the chaff. You know, and you got to do that. And don't get offended if someone's questioning something right off the bat and assume you're being attacked, because that is probably not the case. They're just trying to get a clear picture of what the hell you're talking about.
You know, it's like in our research group, one of the things that we've always said, you know, everyone knows I do not believe Sasquatch exists at this time or at any time in recorded history. I don't think so. But if I was to have an encounter tomorrow and see one, I would want Thomas and Jerry and the rest of the group that I belong to question me harder than they would anybody else. Don't take it for granted because who I am. You need to listen to it. It needs to have that higher level of investigation. And if Thomas was to see one tomorrow, he knows that I would do the same to him, because A, it's not fair to him if we don't, or B, if we don't investigate. Right. But B, you know, we have to have at least the same standard of care to ourselves as anybody else.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, all we can do is go out there and make ourselves available to these sightings. I don't know if anybody can ever find them. They find us, I think. And we just have to put ourselves in those situations, you know, where we can possibly see sightings. Like Thomas and I taking a midnight run out there. You never know, right? Half the sightings are just crossings in front of people.
Well, like when I came to visit you guys at the park, you know, that black bear that was about 250, 275 pounds ran right in front of me. There was two people walking a dog about 75 yards down that were clueless about it. Yeah. And that bear ran from where a couple of different spots where people were camping, and he was probably no further away than 20, 30 yards from them, and they never saw him. Wow. So, you know, there is that possibility that, you know, with Sasquatch, they're there. I'm a hunter. I've seen moose that have taken one or two steps back and disappeared. Yeah. You know, no, there's no portal there. They are masters of survival. So if a Sasquatch does exist, you should expect the same level.
Just checking any questions. I definitely agree with that. So what are the challenges facing Bigfoot investigators today, and how can the community address them?
So, well, I think the biggest question or difficulty facing the researcher today is probably finances, having the time to actually get out and do anything. I mean, we all have to make a living. We all have lives outside of this, you know. Yeah. You know, it's still the same way as it's always been. Individuals doing it on their own time and their own money. There are no government or university grants to sponsor groups looking for the Sasquatch, and there probably never will be. So I think the biggest challenge to the Sasquatch field And probably the main reason, if it does exist, we haven't found it, is not, despite what you think, there's really not a lot of people out there looking. You know, most people are computer key researchers, you know.
Armchair researchers.
Yeah, and very little is really being done. There are not battalions of scientists out looking for this thing that the general public seems to think half the time. No, that won't happen until the evidence is found.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think the flip side to that, you know, talking finances, as long as the charlatans of that can make huge money off of YouTube and that, I mean, some of these guys, we won't say their names because it's not our podcast, but that are hoaxers and, you know, really are charlatans. Some of them are making, you know, 5 and 6 digits a year off of YouTube and that from their BS. The other thing is, again, this goes back to the community embracing stuff as fact that has never been proven. For example, tree structures and that. Thomas and I got a little bit of a debate with this. He was 18 or 19 years old. By his own admission, knew nothing about bushcraft. He was just starting. But on his first 4 times out researching, he found Sasquatch sign 3 times, and it's because he used Google Maps to find these structures, and that guys like Thomas and I didn't know anything because if he could find it with Google Maps. Well, again, tree structures, tree knocks, all of that stuff has never been proven to be real. Thomas has been in the field long enough to remember when old researchers said, is it possible that a Sasquatch tree knocks? Is it possible that they twist trees? Is it possible? And then that morphed from, is that possible, to now you have people expressing it as points of fact, and you have new people coming into the research that have all the stuff that's thrown at them as fact, and that's what they're looking at. And that's a huge detriment to research.
I believe so too. I really do. It takes all of us, you know, not just one channel to point out the bad stuff, you know, point out the nefarious things that are going around. But in honesty, the more channels that share these things, the better off. So that one person isn't isolated by having to tell the truth. You know, a lot of channels are finding it. They don't want all the drama. They don't want all the attention that brings. But in some aspects, we kind of have to. We have to support each other. Otherwise, you know, I feel it just goes round and round and round, and there's not very many, you know, people to support.
And the flip side of on Facebook, you know, you and I belong to a couple of Facebook groups, and I won't mention their names because you get along with them and I don't. But you know, you get some person living in England that's talking about mind speaking with alien Sasquatch here in North America and talking back and forth to them. And when you're on that group and you question them, you are held to task because you're not being nice.
Yeah, right.
And as long as we have, you know, enablers like that, the situation is going to get worse, not better. And often what's called attacking is nothing more than simple, polite questions such as, how do you know this? How is this possible? And they don't, you know, you could attack the argument without attacking the person, but too often in these groups, when you attack the argument, that person has a personal vested interest in that argument, and they see it as an attack on them.
Exactly. They do that. And we've witnessed that several times. I think we kind of already, my last question was, how can podcasters like myself contribute positively to the Bigfoot research community while maintaining credibility? Because we find that I want to grow my channel, you know, and I'm trying to stay as honest and sticking to the facts. But, you know,
Well, that speaks to your integrity, dear lady. You tend to stick with you know, the zoological approach. It must be very tempting sometimes to go into the weird and wonderful, knowing you will increase your audience because of it. But you don't do it. Why? Because you have integrity.
Right.
Okay? Stick to that integrity. It may result in fewer viewers, but at least your integrity is intact.
It's a long
Okay?
road.
Right. You could go off into the weird and wonderful and stuff, increase your tone and have everyone zero in, but eventually the great feeling of that will wear off real fast.
And the thing is you have to have an open mind, but an open mind is not a gullible mind. And quite often when somebody, especially con artists, they'll say, oh, you need to have an open mind. They're conning you, right? Now, some people believe it, but some it's a con. So you have to have an open mind, analyze the data, let the data tell you whether it's right or wrong. And the other thing you need to do is at some point in time, you will make mistakes. We all do. And if you make a mistake and you find out later, admit to it. Don't hide it. Say, I made a mistake. This is what I learned. It's the only way you get your credibility. There's some well-known researchers out there, some that have now passed away, that made some glaring mistakes, and they probably knew it after the fact, but they never admitted to it, and it tarnished their reputation. Where if they would have come back and said, I made a mistake. You know, one of the perfect things, you know, is the Sykes DNA study they did. In his original report, he said they found DNA from a polar bear, grizzly bear hybrid that had been thought to be extinct for 40,000 years. I personally thought that was great. They found an extinct species. Well, a peer review group looked at it, said they made a mistake. All it was a modern Asiatic bear. When Sykes looked at the peer review, he came out and said, yes, you're right, we made a mistake. Rather than defending a position that was wrong, he said, yes, I was wrong, these people are right, which is what peer review is all about. You know, we do have some people with supposed angel DNA out there that, you know, their veterinarian club may talk about all the time. But again, none of that was peer reviewed, and anyone that's looked at it can tell that it's not legitimate science.
Yeah.
I like to think I'm pretty knowledgeable in this field, but I'm never afraid to admit I was wrong. I told you about that, Nikki, when I finally in 2019 saw red reflective eyes the first time. I always thought there was no way anything reflects red. I've seen eyes shine 1,000 times. It's always white, pinkish, a little here, that. And I always thought, why is the person telling me of this encounter trying to make it sound scary? You know? And then 2019, I saw a pair of eyes looking at me myself. I'm not claiming it was a Sasquatch. As a matter of fact, it was only about raccoon height off the ground. But they were bright red, which I thought were two reflectors on a signpost. But then as I got a little closer, they turned away. You know, it is possible for eyes to reflect red in nature. I did not know that. And boy, did I have to eat a lot of crow when I had to admit that. Yeah. And also reflectors do reflect red, as we found out last night in the middle of nowhere. So... Yeah, it's not a bad thing to admit you could be wrong. Okay? And it's definitely not a bad thing to admit it when you are wrong. And I've been wrong more times than I could count.
I'm still waiting for the first time I'm wrong, so I'm just giving advice here.
So you thought Montreal was going to win the cup, so...
Well, I've definitely had an amazing trip. I mean, Thomas, you have been more than taking me out, spending all your extra time, showing me around. Last night we drove. Where did we drive?
State Lake.
State Lake.
Almost out of State Lake, yeah.
And that was an amazing little trip. I mean, we just went out there and to see what we could see. We saw reflectors, but they looked like two eyes. It was like an instant excitement and then letdown at the same time. But I mean, that's pretty much what it is, right? You just go out and see what you can find. But
Well, you notice we
hopefully we'll get that.
didn't say we saw red reflected eyes and said we'll always wonder what that was. We investigated, we looked, we shone our spotlights on, we found out what they were.
Right.
Right.
Right. And also an amazing time today was going through your correspondence from Renee DeHinden and John Green today. He has correspondence from everybody, okay? But I could stay here for months looking at that stuff. And I read a little bit to you guys today, but it's just so much organization. Log books and everything, filing cabinets full. I went through his pictures today. That I didn't show you guys, but you should see some of the pictures of Renee DeHinden, John Green, casual moments at symposiums and Bigfoot conferences and out in the field. They were absolutely amazing. Things that we've never seen before. That they're pretty amazing, and I appreciate all your work in gathering all that data and work and keeping it safe. You know.
Good night.
And if you ever want to roast him, I got some good photos of him.
But that's unavailable publicly, and my monthly payments will continue to come.
Well, it was all amazing. One of the highlights of my trip was going out with Brad Trent. He took me on about a 4-hour excursion up into the Bill Miller expedition.
It used to be Bill Miller had a tourist business, and that was our 2-hour tour route. Yeah.
It was amazing. And right through, I don't know if you've ever heard Thomas, he's talked about it before, but it's called Face Slap Alley. And I did get my face slapped with a few trees and some bugs thrown on me because it is super overgrown right now. But it was a really cool experience. Brad knows his business out there. And thank you so much for organizing that. You did that for me, right? Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that because it was such a highlight. And at the end of that trip, you pop out into this amazing overlook area, an overlook that we see on a lot of documentaries of Thomas talking with the background. And what is that mountain in the background?
Mount Breckenridge.
Breckenridge, right. And it was just the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And I know none of my pictures are going to do it any justice because it was just amazingly quiet except for the buzzing of the bees and the wind going through the trees. So I thank you for that, both of you, because took a lot away from that one. Let's look and see what we got going. Welcome Mid-South Sasquatch. People like Bill and Thomas will help keep an investigator grounded like a good anchor. And that's from Brent.
Thank you, Brent. Too bad we didn't spend more time together.
Yeah.
You're always welcome up here, buddy.
And I'm going to open up to questions. Anybody in the chat have any questions? Go ahead and drop them in right now because we'll bring this to an end if there isn't. We're at about 44 people right now. Grasshoppers. But Grasshopper says, a bear ran us out of that overlook when we went up there. I'm glad you're telling me now. What he's saying, it's white. Polar bear. They're talking about polar bears and them being white. I don't know. Trackway says, like Schwarzenegger, I'll be back.
Oh, for grasshopper, the marker with the cone marking the spot location of the subject was seen in 2017 at the entrance to the park is still there. People were telling me someone took it away. No, it's not. It's still there. You just can't see the cone anymore because it's basically white, not orange anymore.
I didn't make it all the way over there. I only made it like halfway.
Well, you were wearing your happy shoes.
I am wearing my happy shoes right now, too. Grasshopper says, I'll go back up there when my heart balances out. Well, you guys are lucky because you live right there. It's just a hop, skip, and a jump. I'm probably lucky I don't live up here or in Washington. I would be across the border all the time. Brent says, I'm planning a trip next month to come hang out with you guys for a weekend. Oh, shit, did it again. Keep swiping up and then it...
Well, you get used to your own phone.
Mm-hmm. So that'll be cool to see that stuff. So don't expect all these pictures and videos and everything immediately next week, okay? I'll just start putting stuff out little by little, and we'll have a round table with everybody, you know, just to come on and talk about, we had one big night out pretty much. That was it. And with Trackway, Brent and I, and that was interesting to talk about. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about our day hike. What else? My amazing chicken fried rice I made. It was amazing. And well, you got the next meal the next day, which was what's it called? Picanha. And then we had some charro beans, or also called borracho beans, whichever you want. But
Good grub.
Don't forget to thank the man, the legend, Brad. Yes, I did. Brad Trent. He's a good guy. He's a good guy. I can totally see him as a tour guide, you know.
Oh, he enjoyed it when he did it for Bill.
Yeah.
You know, not only could he talk about sightings, he did have his own daytime personal sighting back in the late 1970s, early 1970s. He did find a trackway or possible trackway that he reported to John Green. So, you know, he's being both a witness and a researcher, and he loves the subject.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And for a guy his age, he's go hard.
Yeah. Definitely. All right, everybody. If that's it, thank you guys for tuning in and listening in on this little get together. It's my last night, and I head out tomorrow. Thomas is gonna drive me across the border to Bellingham, and hopefully I'll be home by midnight. Well, 10:30 or 11. We'll see. You know, delays. I'm just gonna say I'll hopefully get home tomorrow night sometime, and we'll get back on the air and start doing things again. And Bigfoot hollow hair equals forever blurry on camera. Much. Okay, it's all good. They're just joking around now. So thank you guys again, and we shall see you guys in the next chat. Good night, you guys.
Good night, everyone.
It won't end.